Yep, there we go.
Okay. All right. There we go. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Anyway, for those of you on the line, I just want to thank you for dedicating some time to go over this with us. I'm going to kick this off to Josh Foster. Many of you who have heard his voice before during the Bill.com training that we held a couple of weeks ago. But before we get started on that, I just want to go over some policy changes that we're making in concert with the launch of Nexonia. The biggest one I want to touch on is that we will no longer be allowing employees to carry negative PTO balances. And just so everybody knows, that will hit a very, very small contingent of our staff. I took a peek yesterday to see how many people currently have a negative balance, and we're running about 15. So as you can see, we're in the minority, and this new policy will impact very, very few employees on our staff, which is great. Just to give you a very brief overview, the non-exempt hourly employees really won't change very much for them. They don't have access to the leave without pay code now, so they will simply charge the hours when they work, and once they burn up their PTO balance, they must accrue PTO again before they can use it. So things will really operate per usual with the hourly folks. With exempt folks, I'll break that down into two different categories. We have our exempt people who are on approved leave without pay. In that category would be FMLA, extended military leave, maternity leave, that group. We will still operate per usual. Managers will reach out to me and or Sally, and with that request, we'll get the appropriate documentation, and then we will make sure the leave without pay code is added to those time sheets. So nothing changes there. Because we will not have the negative PTO option anymore, that's really going to impact the people that have mismanaged their PTO, if we're talking non-approved leave. We have this contingent of employees that constantly hover in the negative to zero range. So this is where we're going to start looking at their time cards a lot more closely. And this new policy is going to honestly force them to ask their managers the question, because they'll have to get that leave without pay code added. So it's going to be an extra layer of approval that will be into play, and probably give them a moment to take pause and say, wow, do I really want to have to ask my manager for leave without pay code for, to spend a half day at the beach? The answer probably is going to be no for some of them. So I think we'll see a lot more people, the absenteeism, improving a bit on those people. So honestly, we'll just watch those folks that do struggle with being out of work more than is necessary. And if it becomes a problem, it then is a disciplinary issue in the form of absenteeism. But again, that impacts very few people, and I'll work with you guys on an individual level should that happen with any of your folks. So that's how we'll address the negative PTO piece. The other policy change I do want to speak to before we roll onto the training is that our expense reporting reimbursement schedule is going to slightly change. Rather than a weekly processing schedule, it will be the processing will occur and to accompany with our standard payroll schedule. So I know that will probably lead to a lot of questions. We're in the process of trying to construct a calendar, which would be helpful not only for managers, but for employees, that would, for instance, say, if you submit your expense report by X date, you will be paid on X date. So we'll put that together and make sure we provide that to everybody. So that's a change as far as expense reporting, and employees, it will just force them, if they want to get paid promptly, they'll need to submit their expense reports within the 3-day period of time as our policy states. So I imagine that we'll see expense reports come in a lot quicker if folks know that it may take a bit longer for them to get paid than it's currently happening. So again, there'll be some bumps along the way, but we'll work our way through it, and soon it will become just habit and cause little noise on anybody's end. So unless anybody has questions about the policy changes, I'll hand it off to Josh to get moving on the time off and the timekeeping piece, and then he'll roll to the expense reporting module.
All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Josh.
All right. Let me know when you can see my screen.
All good?
Yep, got it. Okay. All right. This is the landing page when you log into Nexonia. Everyone's page will look very similar. It'll have, timesheets, expense reports, time off. Approvers will have, this approval section as well. So we'll be covering, all 4 sections. So the timesheets is where we'll start. Then we'll move to the time off. So there will be some back and forth between these two. So we will cover the time off though right after the timesheets. So to enter a timesheet, you click on that timesheet module, or up at the top there's a tab for timesheets. Each will bring you to this screen. This screen will show you previous weeks of time. So for example, we pre-populated some time for some employees. So this employee has 2 weeks worth of time entered. This will show the previous 15 weeks worth of time. To start on a new timesheet, you can click on current week, or if you're working on a timesheet that's already started, it would be here to work on.
Josh, if you don't mind me interjecting, yes, this is a new component to the system than we currently have with Caboose. This system does not allow for a 2-week look ahead, so we will have to enter time on a weekly basis, but we'll get more to that and how that works. But I just want to mention that's why you're not seeing a 2-week advanced look on the pay period.
Yep, that's correct. So when we click into that current week, if depending on how many charge codes are assigned to an employee, if there's only one charge code assigned, it'll pre-populate with that charge code. If not, there'll be a drop-down menu to select which charge code to choose. If charging multiple, you can add another row to select multiple projects during that week. And to enter time, it's pretty easy. Just click on the day and enter your time, and then save that. At the end of the week, to submit that for approval, you would just hit the submit button, and that transfers it to the manager for approval.
And to speak to that, guys, I know you're probably thinking, oh, am I going to have to approve my employees' timesheets on a weekly basis? The answer to that is no. The employees will be required to submit on a weekly basis, but you only need to approve on a biweekly basis at the end of the pay period. So your responsibility there does not change.
But in basically, when you're filling out the time card, you only hit the saved button, not the submit button.
At the end of the week, the employee needs to hit the submit button. So on Friday, if they've worked that Friday, they need to submit that timesheet for that week.
Right, on a daily basis.
I fear if they go into the next week without submitting it, they may forget to go back to the previous week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and if they do, hit submit, what it does is it just sends it for approval. They can still make changes to the time card up until it's approved by the manager. So even if they hit submit, on Tuesday, they can still continue into their time. It's just that it's then that those 2 days would then go to the manager for approval, but it doesn't prevent them from continuing to enter their time for that week.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone have any questions about the time entry? Okay. So one question, so this employee only has this one charge code. The question is, how does that PTO get entered? That's actually entered in the time off module, and that transfers the time to the timesheet. So to enter that, you just click into this time off. Go to this employee. And so we enter time, up through Thursday for this week. Say tomorrow he's going to take vacation. Just click on that day. Choose this type. There will only be one type here, so it'll be the only option for them to choose. Enter the 8 hours and submit. So that will submit this time off. If we go back to that time card, that 8 hours will have been imported. And now we have 40 hours for the work week in which you can submit. So this time off can be entered, for future dates. It won't let you enter time for worked hours for future dates. So if I would try to enter, time for tomorrow for this, it wouldn't let me. But you will be able to enter time off in the future and submit that for approval if they're going on vacation near the end of a pay period. Any questions about entering the PTO?
Is it going to say hourly so they could do 4 hours or 2 hours or whatever?
Yep, absolutely. They can choose if they're only taking a half a day. They can enter, 4 hours, 2 hours, whatever amount of time they're taking off.
Okay.
And for the managers, there was an option for us to add an approval workflow on this, but we opted out of that because for our managers who have 50 direct reports, that just would have become entirely too cumbersome for them to get alerts every time an employee wanted an hour from PTO. So we removed that approval process. So it's just a direct add to the timesheet without manager approval.
Thanks for doing that.
You're welcome. I was thinking about you, Dan, all those people. Absolutely.
Yep. And so, the system will reject the time off submission if it would exceed their balance. So that's where that it wouldn't let them go into a negative PTO balance. So that any time that gets imported into the timesheet, they have those hours available. Okay. So another question would be, how does holiday get recorded? So the holiday hours are actually pre-populated by the system based on the federal holiday schedule. So let me just go through here, find one. Like that one.
So what happens if they work on those days?
It'll let them delete the hours if they would end up working that day. They would then need to reach out to HR to let them know, hey, I worked this holiday, or to you, to the manager, who would then reach out to HR saying that I worked this holiday and I need the holiday code added to my timesheet to charge, in the future when they do take that holiday.
Okay.
They would have to go through their manager, right, Claire?
Yes. Yeah. So go through the manager, then you guys would reach out to me, and we'll take care of that on this end.
All right.
Yep.
So that policy stays the same, that they have 30 days to use that holiday, so nothing changes there.
Okay.
Yep. So like I said, it pre-populates those. So if they do work it, they can delete that time and add in the regular time. But that option won't be available just to use at any time. So it should cut down on any mistakes of charging a holiday incorrectly.
Josh, could you show us what deleting that holiday looks like, just so we can all see that on the screen?
Yeah.
Oh.
So what they would do is just select this row and delete it, and then they could add in their normal work project.
Okay. Okay.
So
Perfect. Thank you.
if you have somebody with multiple charges, like some of us do, can you drop down and put all the multiple charges in so that you can balance to see what you're doing, or do you have to visit each line individually?
So when you open up the time card for each week, it'll originally just have one line. So then you would add, so when you first started working, you add, say you work 3 different projects on Monday, those rows would stay there, and you can continue to use those for the rest of the week. Let's go back.
Okay.
Got it.
I see.
So, if say these were different projects here, and it was, work 2 hours here, 6 hours here, those are going to stay, so if this was, you can imagine all these being different projects.
So you just have to do it at the beginning of the week, and then you're good until you submit.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Hey, Josh, Jeff here. Quick question though, but you can't set it up to have multiple lines just show up for you every week if you're charging those throughout week in and week out. You have to add them every time?
That's correct. Yeah, at the beginning of each week.
Okay.
Any other questions on the timesheet, PTO, holiday?
Things like bereavement leave and all that other stuff will be added as the manager requested for the.
Yeah,
Yep.
Dan, that will stay the same. So managers will just reach out to me and or Sally, and we will make sure that code is populated in the system.
Got it.
Okay. So next we'll move on to approval of timesheets. So managers would click on this approval tab. That'll take you into the approval module. And under the approval module, we'll have, timesheets and expense. Approving the timesheets now, so you just click on the timesheets. This will show all the timesheets that need to be approved. So right now, these are sorted by week. To make it easier, you can sort by employee, so you can review 2 weeks worth of time for the employee for that pay period. So this time is that we pre-populated is the period for the last payroll, 6/23 to 7/6. So we can see there were 40 hours each week for this employee. You just click on the week. You can review the time. Select all the time, then select approve. That'll take it out of the approval queue.
So you're approving each week individually, basically.
That's correct. So now we get to this employee. So here they entered 88 hours on Tuesday. So you open up, you see, they entered it wrong. You can reject that, and it'll ask you to send a comment back. So whenever you reject that time and add the comment in, a email will be sent to the employee, with that rejection and that comment. There's also a mobile app. If they have a mobile app, they'll get a notification that the time was rejected as well. So if they're using that option.
Yeah, I would also suggest in the rare instance if someone doesn't have the mobile app, I think everybody, if they have a smartphone, should download it because it's just so simple and easy to use. But I would also suggest probably just sending them an email to, how you normally communicate, their work site email, because there's quite a big contingent of employees, direct employees, who don't check their ISHPI email on a frequent basis. So I would hate for them not to get that. So I would just continue your normal communication process with those employees and not rely on the internal Nexonia system to get that message to them.
We'll have a place. You have a place where we can download the app.
Yes, yeah. We'll be providing that info, Dan. We're putting together some PDF resource guides, and all that information will be in those guides. So you will just stay tuned, and we'll get that to you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on approving time?
What's the policies button for them?
Sorry, what was that?
The policies button.
What is the policies button?
Oh, the policies button. So this, shows right now. This shows like what time charges are available for right now. I'm under Aaron Johnson. Another thing that we haven't talked about yet, but Claire, we can upload like the timekeeping policies in here, and that link can show up in here as well.
Okay, great.
That document, if you wanted that in the Nexonia system. So if there were a written policy manual, we can upload it, and that would be available here.
Okay, I'll get that to you.
Any other questions? Anything you wanted to add, Claire, about the timesheets, time off, approvals?
I think we've hit all the highlights. I'll let you know if I can think of anything we missed, but I think we've covered the biggies. So feel free to move forward with expenses.
Okay. Yep. So next we'll move on to expenses. So like the timesheets, this will when you enter the expenses module, it'll show all the previous expenses, expense reports that were submitted or in process. To start a new expense report, we'll just click Add Report. The title, you continue using your same naming convention that you're currently using. And this will bring up the expense report. To add an expense item, we'll just click Add Expense Item here. This will bring up to enter the expense. Depending if the employee has multiple charge codes or it's a single charge code, this will either be hard coded or you would choose which project the expense is for. We have these expense categories to choose from: airfare, car rental, mileage, meals, per diem.
Ooh, alcohol's in there.
I knew you'd like that one, Dan.
All right, I like this already.
So you choose the expense category, choose your date, the receipt. Here you choose if it's company paid or employee paid. Employee paid will be reimbursed. Company paid will not be reimbursed. Enter in your amount, and then over here on the right, you can add a receipt.
Josh, we may have lost your screen.
Lost something.
Oh,
Can you see it?
there, yes, got it.
Sorry. All right, then you can, choose the receipt to upload. And just click OK. That'll bring up the receipt in here. Save and close.
What will it take?
Now,
What will you be able to save as far as documents go? Anything that it doesn't like? I mean, most of our stuff is PDFs or PNGs, I guess. But is there anything
that should be.
that doesn't like?
I don't think there is. I mean, most of you definitely take PDFs, images, Word documents, anything like that. Should be fine. Also, one of the nice things is that there's also an expense app through Nexonia, so you can take a picture with your phone and kind of just, as you're incurring expenses, just take a picture of that receipt. It saves it. You don't have to enter the expense right away. It just saves that receipt, and then you can later attach it when you're completing the expense report. So I would highly suggest downloading the app to use if you're creating expense reports. It'll make it really easy to get those receipts in here.
Is your app
How would you get it off your phone onto the computer?
You actually take the picture through the Nexonia app.
I got it.
So it stores it in Nexonia. So when you can complete the expense report either on the app or when you log into the web application, those receipts will also be available.
Claire, for local travel, you still have to include maps. Is that still a requirement? You just upload the PDF map?
No, Dan, look at this snazzy feature he'll show you. You're going to love it.
Yep, so for mileage, you can actually, choose the mileage options, enter, the locations for the destinations. It'll create a map. So that creates the map, generates the distance, automatically calculates that, and when you save it, it'll keep this as a receipt as well.
Where was the save on that, John?
Over right here. So after you enter in those destinations and everything looks good, like I said, it brings up the distance. You just hit save and close.
Oh, gotcha.
And I'll add that expense in there.
Well, look at the.
Very handy.
So another nice feature is per diem. So the per diem rates are loaded in here. You just choose your destination. You have to enter these for each day. You can't do just, if the trip was 4 day, enter those dates. So you have to choose each day. So the first day, add in your travel day. Save and copy. So then, the next day, say that's a full day per diem, save and copy. And then the final day, you have a travel day. And then you could save and close. So that'll bring in your per diem, based on that location.
Basically, it's only copying down the meals piece to it, right?
Correct.
Or do lodging costs.
Now the lodging, that'll bring in the rate as well for, based on location, but it's not editable. So this will bring in, if the rate is $93 a night for this location, it sets as that, so they wouldn't be able to use this rate unless you got the you got the exact GSA rate for the hotel.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So there must be one where you edit it then, right, Josh?
Yes. So we have a lodging non-per diem. So this is where you can enter in, this is, you can, edit this to, say that you actually only pay $89 a night for that hotel. You could add that in. And then there's also a lodging tax category as well.
I see. So you get the per diem rate, and that's not editable, and the non-per diem rate, if you had to pay more, and I would assume you have to put some remarks down there, like approved by supervisor or whatever.
Right.
Okay. You get that, buddy?
Yeah, yep. Got a lot of those on my side, so that's why I asked.
Yeah.
And Whitney just brought up a good point too. If you have customer approval to vary from the per diem amount, if you have an email, I would recommend uploading that as well to the expense report.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for direct charges, that's definitely.
Yes. Right.
All right. Any other questions about adding an expense, entering an expense report?
This all looks pretty user friendly. We'll have to muck around with it a little bit. I'm sure people may have questions down the road, but this is pretty user friendly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we agree.
The only thing I want to add is that we were tossing around yesterday, and I think we'll move forward with it, having the TAR be a selection item in that drop-down menu so that you can attach the TAR and have a complete package with your expense report. I don't think we've done that yet, have we, Josh?
No, not yet.
Okay, so that is something that you will probably see moving forward.
Right. So what we would have is we'd have a category here with just the TAR. Yeah. This obviously would be 0.
Yeah.
Then you can add that, attach that. That way it'll show up with the expense report to approve.
I assume that split item button is to split it across the charge across different jobs. Is that right?
Yeah. So let me.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm jumping ahead, probably.
Yep. So if you have that total here, and then you can split that to, multiple projects or different categories.
Oh, across different categories.
Yeah. This would also be editable too. This employee only has one project.
Yeah.
So this is hard coded for this employee. This, so right now the only thing they can really choose from is the different categories, but this would be editable as well if there were multiple.
Okay.
Okay.
And Josh, I know we haven't finalized that tar selection yet, and I know that's not why it's not added, but I'll probably circle back with you in another day or so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
The view PDF function is really helpful too to keep the files. Do you mind walking through that?
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, this view PDF with receipts will bring up the expense report. So that'll show, the employee, all the different charges.
Well, you can see it all on one sheet of paper, kind of like we used to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely. And when you hit that, it'll also include any receipts along with that, right in that PDF.
Okay.
Josh, as you were scrolling by, I saw the signature lines, which have been added since yesterday. Could you speak to that and how that will function?
Yes, so that's something that I had a meeting with Nexonia this morning that hadn't had a chance to go over with you yet, but yeah, we can add that. We can also have e-signatures added in. This is kind of a process that, we have to talk about. Where these can be pre-populated based on who submits it and who approves it, that these signatures would show up.
Okay, that's terrific.
But we would just have to be provided. So this is where it gets kind of funny, is we have to actually upload like the signatures in the back end for each person.
Wow.
So that's something I wanted to talk to you about. I just hadn't had a chance from my meeting this morning with them.
Yeah, we can definitely link up about that.
Okay.
Why don't you just set it up where that it pulls the name from the voucher and electronically types it in script. If you're doing that, then that seems like to me the person that would be certification enough.
Right. So yeah, I mean, we can have it pre-populate without a signature with just these names here. So
yeah, you can do employee ID number. There's a lot of ways of doing that.
Right. So which we can move on to, like, if no one has any more questions, we can move on to approval for the expense report.
So when you're done, there's a submit button, and then the manager gets it.
Yep, that's correct. Make sure. So that one we were playing around with. Go ahead and submit that.
Okay. All right.
Go back to the approvals. So like I said, there's two sections under here: the timesheets and the expenses. Okay. So we can go and click into that one that we were reviewing. So this is how it'll show up at first. You can click the show receipts here to it'll bring up the receipts at the bottom of the expense report to review along. And you can also, view the PDF to review it that way. Now, after we go ahead and approve this, I'll show you how it shows up. Just approved. See if this one works. Okay. So we see here, this one was approved now. This name, shows up by the employee who approved it and those dates.
Got it.
Go back into this approval.
So once we approve it, then it goes to accounting.
Correct.
Okay.
So does anyone have any questions about the approval for expense reports?
Could you just walk through if a correction is needed on an employee's expense report, how a manager would handle that?
Yep, absolutely. So the manager would be able to, reject that that expense report, add in a comment, what needs to be changed. They can also make corrections on the expense report itself and edit items. The employee is notified of any changes that you make to the expense report.
Oh, so you can actually fix it instead of mailing it back to them every time.
Yep. So you'd be able to, to go in there and make changes. Like I said, the employee is notified of any changes you do make.
Got it.
Any questions? Claire, anything from your side you want me to cover on expense reports?
I don't think, is there anything, Lisa?
The 3 business days turnaround, that's still the same.
Yeah.
The paying every 2 weeks, we touched on that. We'll have a calendar forthcoming. I think those are the big things that we need to get out.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else as it relates to expense reporting. Yeah, guys, we're still working through how to roll this training out to employees. Our target is by the end of next week, all of this, the training, resource guides, and all of the package. We hope to put that together and get that to employees by the end of next week. So again, another thing I'm asking to stay tuned on, we're working through it, but in the meantime, just reach out to us if there are any questions. But it was just important for us to make sure you guys were able to see the system, get familiar with it, and so this would not be brand new to you too at the same time as employees. But again, it's going to be, there will be bumps in the road, but we'll get through it. So thank you.
Are you planning on doing a demonstration similar to this, or are you putting it all in instructions?
Probably not, Dan, because we're down to the wire, and I don't know that we would be able to get everybody on calls next week. So what we may do is we're considering taping a video training and providing that as a link.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was thinking the same. That would be
you agree?
Amount to get everybody on one phone call.
Yeah, we thought the same thing. That was initially the direction we were going, and then as time has passed, we thought that probably wouldn't be the wisest solution. So that's our plan. So I'm glad we're on the same page. I don't think we have anything else.
That's
Yeah,
it.
unless anybody has any last final questions.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Thank you for doing this for us, Josh. We appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks
All right.
everybody for joining. Have a good rest of the day.
All right, you too.
Bye.